Well, thank you, Hannah, for sitting down with me.
Pleasure.
Now, before we talk about NAPB, I want to talk a bit about your business, PBS International, that's Pollination Bag Specialists.
That's right.
You're based in the UK. Now, you apply fabric technology to pollination control. You make a range of products for plant breeding and seed producers. So what's been a major success for PBS International over the past year since we last talked?
It's been a busy year, and there's sort of two things that spring to mind. One is, notwithstanding, as you said, we're called Pollination Bag Specialists, we've introduced pollination control tents, so much bigger structures, and sort of getting those out to the market, communicating the options and how they work, that has been a big step forward for us this year, and we're really starting to get some traction in that area. So we've been really pleased with how do we go about applying that technology around technical fabrics to a structure which needs to be much stronger and withstand really strong winds to be practical in the field. So that's been a big achievement for us this year to get that product finished, shared with the world, start to explain how it works to customers. And then the second thing is just we've had some changes in the team, and the colleagues that I work with have done a brilliant job of just rising to the occasion. And, I feel really privileged to have such good people to work with.
Having to withstand high winds, is climate change a reason for that at all?
It can be. It depends a little bit on the geography that they're going to be used. So some locations, when we were doing trials, we had some tents in Oklahoma. One of them got taken away by a tornado. There's not a lot we can do about that. But in other circumstances, certainly when we did our trials in the west of the UK, the kind of winds that we get in storms these days are much greater than they used to be. And they need to be tougher than ever.
12 months as president of NAPB, what's been the highlight for you and why?
So one of the highlights for the last 12 months for me has been that we've started this thing that we call the Roundtable of World Plant Breeding Organizations. So we've reached out to other plant breeding organizations in other continents to start a conversation. Where have we got common ground? Where can we support or cooperate with each other? It's very early days, very tentative, but that's been really exciting and interesting to make those connections, and we're beginning to explore where that could go. So that's making connections with Europe, with Australasia, with 2 different organizations in Africa, and we could go further. So that's definitely been one thing. And then the other big highlight for me over the last 12 months was we had a meeting in Colorado of most of the past presidents of NAPB, where we had a good sit down and think about our strategy. So we've come such a long way. Where do we want to go next? Let's get some brains onto that task. And we've come up with some sort of principles, or these are the areas we think we're strong on, these are the areas we're not so strong on, but we'd like to be. And then that's going to feed into the formulation of our strategy as an organization that we will do with the rest of our members in the coming months.
Yeah, well, that kind of leads me to my next question. Last time we spoke, you had some goals as incoming president. The big one was to see NAPB continue to grow after attaining record membership levels over the last year. You said we've reached the point where we need to put some structure in place to help the organization go from its young roots to being an organization that can continue to grow. Where does membership sit right now, and how has that mission progressed?
Yeah, so our membership has gone up 13% year on year. So, we feel like that's been a good rate of growth. Actually, what we've probably spent more time on is putting the foundations in place to allow growth. So a lot of that, when you renovate a house, you do a lot of the work on the things you can't see, like the plumbing. It's felt a bit like that. We've done a lot of work behind the scenes on things like what digital tools do we use? How do we set up our infrastructure? How do we manage our communications better? So those things have taken quite a lot of time and energy. And I hope and expect that we will actually see the membership numbers really begin to grow more in the coming years as that bears fruit. I suppose if we go back 12 months, I had a reservation that we were spending too much of our time and energy on logistics and organization. Where does this go? Who's got the password for that? And if we can get rid of those time sinks, we can put our energy into the things that really matter to plant breeders. So.
The meeting this year is here in Greenville, South Carolina, with the theme being Southern Hospitality through Food and Agriculture. What's the highlight of the meeting for you this year?
Well, when I was a kid, my family used to call me Fruit Face. So obviously the highlight for me was tasting all those peaches. But aside from that, on a more serious note, I have loved the connection with food and cuisine and the value chain more generally. You know, it's inevitable that we all tend to focus on our work and our little area of priority. But to recognize that the food system is huge and complicated, and plant breeding has to at least be aware of the needs of other stages, whether it's processing or retailing or the eating quality at the end. That's really a really valuable reminder for the plant breeding community, and bringing that to life in the sessions that we've had here this week has been really fun with that.
You're about to pass the president's torch to Thomas Luberstedt. After serving in this role for a year, what's your advice I interviewed Thomas earlier, what's your advice to him in terms of helping move NAPB forward?
I'm sure Thomas doesn't need to take advice from me. He's going to be superstar in this position. He and I have worked very closely together, so we're on the same page about a lot of the things that we see as being the opportunities. But I think in that sense, one of the things we both recognize is that we have this great body of members and volunteers and potential volunteers, and tapping into the energy and potential that comes with that is really going to be the key to helping to move NAPB forward. And I think that's probably, if I were to give him advice, it would be something along those lines.
Thanks for sitting down with me, Hannah.
My pleasure. It's been good.